So, being totally at a loss for any creative notions about what to say and all that, I happened to be reading a Harry Potter novel, auf English, on my Kindle, and it's something like The League of the Phoenix or something like that title of this particular Harry Potter adventure book. It's quite long, and here I am reading it. I certainly won't read the whole thing in one chunk, but it's, kind of broken up into this adventure and the next adventure and that adventure, and from adventure to adventure I can skip off and read about some kind of American takeover invasion of islands in the Marianas in the Pacific in World War II, and in particular in a sense, minor battle in that major battle to get airfields, airfields within reach of Japan by the bombers of the day. And when they developed, the Americans, the B-29, it had a longer range. Incidentally, it was a B-29 that bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Could reach Japan from these relatively faraway islands that the Marianas then became of even higher strategic value, and so they were invaded and taken over, and this somehow apparently sort of marks the turning of the tide for Japan's naval war capability. They went down and the Americans went up. Anyway, here I am reading Harry Potter. So, the ministry are morons and eat dung, Umbridge. Whoa. Still there. Harry's just had an experience of actually being Lord Voldemort, the arch-villain, and his arch-enemy, among others. Anyway. Oh, 10 minutes. So that's why they killed him, she said quietly, withdrawing her gaze from Fred and George at last. When Bode tried to steal this weapon, something funny happened to him. I think there must be defensive spells on it, or around it, to stop people touching it. That's why he was in St. Mungo's. His brain had gone all funny, and he couldn't talk. But remember what the healer told us. My mouth is very dry. Remember what the healer told us? He was recovering, and they couldn't risk him getting better, could they? I mean, the shock of whatever happened when he touched that weapon probably made the imperious curse lift. Once he'd got his voice back, he'd explain what he'd been doing, wouldn't he? They would have known he'd been sent to steal the weapon. Of course, it would have been easy for Lucius Malfoy to put the curse on him. Never out of the ministry, is he? He was even hanging around that day I had my hearing, said Harry. In the hang-on, he said. He was in the Department of Mysteries corridor that day. Your dad said he was probably trying to sneak down and find out what happened in my hearing. But what if... Sturgis, gasped Hermione, looking thunderstruck. Sorry, said Ron, looking bewildered. Sturgis Podmore, said Hermione breathlessly, arrested for trying to get through a door. Lucius Malfoy must have got him too. I bet he did it the day you saw him there, Harry. Sturgis had Moody's invisibility cloak, right? So what if he was standing guard by the door, invisible, and Malfoy heard him move or guessed that someone was there, or just did the imperious curse on the off chance there'd be a guard there. So when Sturgis next had an opportunity, probably when it was his turn on guard duty again, he tried to get into the department to steal the weapon for Voldemort. Ron, be quiet. But he got caught and sent to Azkaban. She gazed at Harry. And now Rookwood's told Voldemort how to get the weapon? I didn't hear all the conversation, but that's what it sounded like, said Harry. Rookwood used to work there. Maybe Voldemort will send Rookwood to do it. Hermione nodded, apparently still lost in thought. Then quite abruptly she said, But you shouldn't have seen this at all, Harry. What? He said, taken aback. You're supposed to be learning how to close your mind to this sort of thing, said Hermione, suddenly stern. I know I am, said Harry, but... Well, I think we should just try and forget what you saw, said Hermione firmly, and you ought to put in a bit more effort on your occlumency from now on. The week did not improve as it progressed. Harry received 2 more D's in potions. He was still on tenterhooks that Hagrid might get the sack, and he couldn't stop himself dwelling on the dream in which he had been Voldemort. Though he didn't bring it up with Ron and Hermione again, he didn't want another telling off from Hermione. He wished very much that he could have talked to Sirius about it, but that was out of the question, so he tried to push the matter to the back of his mind. That's enough for you, I'm sure. Oh, and there's a low battery symbol. So that was an exceedingly boring view of an old man reading Harry Potter. Can only take so much of that for in a chunk, and then have various other nourishments, intellectual nourishments. Anyway, I go back to Harry Potter, and if I believed anybody who would stay through this and watch to the end, I would thank them for watching. I will be interested to see how I feel about watching it. When I watch it, I will. That's one of the benefits of doing this, is that I play this game of seeing myself. I guess by now, adage that I never really know what I think until it comes out of my mouth. I never really know how I externally am until I see it happening. So this is another happening in the long and actually interesting. I find looking back on memories that my life has actually been quite interesting. It's not just flowed from, standard get married, have, go to school, get married, have children, work, come back home, have for dinner, like daddy and mother. This never really quite happened. My first big love, Donna, my second, Sherry, my third, in between, Connie, so that makes fourth, Lydia, fifth, Gabi, sixth, who knows. But yesterday I met a lovely young woman who works as a language teacher, apparently, Russian, blonde, in the Vietnamese Laden restaurant, where I sort of customarily, right near Pochi-Strasse, U-Bahn, customarily buy so-called Glücksrollen, which some Vietnamese will call Zomerrollen, summer rolls. Anyway, rice paper outside, as it were, rice whatever, wrapper, mung bean sprouts, noodles of some sort, and chicken or shrimp. Well, shrimp is not very many, but this time, for the first time ever, I asked for chicken and shrimp. My favorite T5 turned into a T5, T5A. It's been so long that I wasn't quite sure whether T5 or TS5 or whatever, but it all worked out, and I bought my peanut butter. This is one of my two prime sources of peanut butter, and I always like to have one spare anyway. So I now have a spare peanut butter and a half eaten. And when there's a spare, then I don't feel like I have to conserve quite so much. And, more Nachgefühl. Oh, I feel like having peanut butter and there's enough, so. Or I don't, whatever. So I had this double duty Glücksrolle, two of them, and this lovely blonde woman sitting at the next table over. Somehow or another, it happened that I offered her half of one, because they were so big, and it's like more than I can really want to eat. They were almost like two in one. And the gentleman in charge at the end charged me $6.50, which is, I think, $1.50 over the shrimp or chicken only version. And they are gentle people, really. I like them. Partly maybe because of what America did to Vietnam, but kind of reminds me of meeting the Russian Vietnam vet in Moscow at a wedding which we were forced to attend by virtue of our taking a Polaroid picture of the bride and groom outside the hotel, giving it to them, and they forced us to share their wedding with them right next to the bride's mother. And this fire plug of a man, Vietnam vet, Russian Vietnam vet, wanted to drink brooch or whatever, somehow Russian for brotherhood, and we drank medium-sized tumblers, 2/3 full or something of vodka. I got drunk and enjoyed the vodka like I've never enjoyed a vodka before. Just like so smooth, like, I don't know, not rough at all. Just like, I say fine wine, but actually better. Anyway, so that was me reading Harry Potter and reminiscing, and yeah, really, I mean, so many things seem to have happened in this life. So many phases, which I tend to mark by the woman in attendance. Right now, there's this woman with whom I shared a thingy, a looks roll, and she more or less invited me to meet her again, saying that she's usually dining there at 2 p.m. So that's really lovely. So I'm dealing with, shall I go today? Not tomorrow. Gabi's coming tomorrow. Is it insane to go the next day, one way or another? I don't even know what I feel like, and maybe at 2 o'clock I will feel like going, and if I feel like going, or 1 o'clock or 1:30, then I might. What the hell? Because actually I've now got an interest in trying their sweet and sour chicken, if they don't do pork, which is a really pleasant memory of early days with Sherry at the edge of Harvard Square, the Chinese restaurant across the street from 1218 Mass Ave. Fantastic building with a triangular point, as it were, in which our bed on the, in American, second floor, first floor of Deutsch, in this bow window, which at some point actually led to our being observed by boys on the rooftop across the street. But, we observed very lovely rituals in that place. And one of the rituals was the occasional restaurant visit to the Chinese restaurant across the street, and what I remember is the sweet and sour chicken or pork. I don't know, pork comes to mind, but I think I might like chicken better. Anyway, so I'm thinking of going back to that Vietnamese restaurant to enjoy, I hope, their version of sweet and sour chicken. Super. And, oh my goodness, 27 minutes. Are you fucking serious? Beep.